Hey, welcome on in, everybody. Tobin here with you, and thanks for checking out the channel. If you guys could subscribe, that'd be great. Hit that like button. Appreciate you, everybody, stopping by. Get a little bit of breaking news in the 4 o'clock hour today, Eastern time. Miami Dolphins are placing Tua Tagovailoa on injured reserve with his recovery from concussions. He is going to miss the next 4 games. I think there's been some confusion about this. I saw this on SportsCenter this morning. Somebody said 4 weeks. It's not 4 weeks. It's 4 games that he's going to miss. So Tua is going to miss the following for the Miami Dolphins. He, of course, missed this week at Seattle. He will miss at home Monday Night Football against the Tennessee Titans, which is, of course, almost an exercise the demons type game on September 30th. Then he will miss a road game in New England on October 6th. And then then the Dolphins have a bye week. So that does not count towards his time on injured reserve. And so then the 4th game will be at Indianapolis, which will be on October 20th. That's a 1 o'clock road game. And then he would finally be eligible to return on October 27th, 1 o'clock at home, hosting the Arizona Cardinals, with a week later being, of course, against the arch nemesis and Supreme Division daddy Buffalo Bills on November 3rd. So a couple of things here. One, shouldn't be a surprise. I think we were we all heard Mike McDaniel's comments yesterday, and he had said that not enough information. It had been noticeable that they hadn't officially signed Tyler Huntley yet, though based on his comments made it seem like Tyler Huntley was going to be on the 53-man roster. This was not a practice squad move, and they were adding some depth to Skylar Thompson. They were just awaiting some clarification and clarity on where Tua was going to be, what steps he's going through, and everybody says this now gives him ample time because it is a 4-game step aside, essentially, at least. This basically gives him almost 6 full weeks of recovery, though 5 weeks without games, and then the Miami Dolphins can decide where he's at. How is he feeling? That would actually be more time than he got, I believe, the last time he had one this severe when it looked that violent on that Thursday night game against the Cincinnati Bengals. So, I think not surprising if you were to, chalk things up on how they had looked. You probably had, I think everybody saw this coming unless whatever the first reactions were that it just looked completely worse than it was. It wasn't that big a deal. Never thought that was going to happen. This always had the writing of this was going to be an injured reserve situation, and he was going to be missing some significant time here. This is, I believe ESPN said this is going to turn up his total missed games for his career up to 14, which of course isn't ideal. You're almost pushing a full season there that Tua has missed just on various injuries, but of course the head injuries being the most severe that has cost him time in his career. And now the Miami Dolphins have to figure out a way to try and weather this storm without their starting quarterback. Do stand by what I said yesterday. Look, if there was a part of the schedule you would want this to happen on, not that you would ever want this to happen, but if you could pick the most ideal time to try and weather the storm, this would be the time to do it. You have a trip to Seattle, which was going to be tough either way, not just because Seattle's off to a 2-0 start, but it's legitimately the farthest trip that you could take in the NFL, Miami to Seattle. It's a tough place to play. They're a good team, and they are 2-0. The other teams that they're taking on, you have an 0-2 Tennessee Titans team that has a quarterback who's legitimately a ticking time bomb and his coach is calling a dumbass. You have the New England Patriots, who everybody pegged as the last place team in this division, though they have looked feistier and surprised everybody with a win over the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1, and then gave the Seattle Seahawks all they could really handle and the Seahawks had to wrestle away an overtime win, but they are 1-1. And then you have the Indianapolis Colts, who are also 0-2. So what do you have? You have a combined 3-5 record of teams that you're about to take on, going from the outlook, looking into these next games. This is not the gauntlet the Dolphins are facing in the schedule. This is not, a bunch of West Coast trips back to back. This is not the end of the season when they have to go out on the road a ton. It does feel like there are winnable games here, even without Tua. And especially if you look to how Devon Achane looked the last game out and how the Dolphins were able to run the football, perhaps the Miami Dolphins are going to be able to find ways. I do think that a Skylar Thompson with preparation is going to be in a better spot. This, in a lot of ways, though, is going to be a nice, I think, a nice measuring stick game coach-wise for Mike McDaniel, because he's taken on almost another young guru in Mike McDonald of the Seattle Seahawks, who ran the Baltimore Ravens defense. A lot of guys got hired off that Ravens defense, including your own guy in Anthony Weaver. So nobody's got more insight into what the Miami Dolphins defensively are facing than Mike McDaniel. And in fact, he's literally facing this defense, not the same talent, but the same system essentially, every single week in practice. They have more practice against this than anybody else. Skylar Thompson has more practice against this defense than anybody else. So if there were some recipes for familiarity, for comfort, for what he's going to see, you're going up against a really, really tricky defensive mind for sure. But also, at least this is not like you're going, I think the word was, I think from Devon, this is not his first rodeo. It's not even his first rodeo against, this look. And you would think you're going to get somewhat of a leg up with a little bit of institutional knowledge. The Dolphins have had a bit of the element of surprise in their first couple of weeks. Did not, and it is had some mixed results. It's a little tough to judge the defense off of last week, other than that one tough run they gave up to James Cook at the end, because, man, offense put him in some awful positions with the turnovers and the bad calls from Mike McDaniel. He did not put Anthony Weaver in the best situations to discover, though I do think we all have to laugh at Vic Fangio after watching what happened on Monday Night Football last night and feel pretty good about where things are at. So this looks like it's going to open up the door for Tyler Huntley to be on the 53-man roster. It should be pointed out, Jeff Darlington, longtime NFL reporter, and of course a lot of sources and contacts down here. He did say that the Miami Dolphins are not really interested in Ryan Tannehill. A couple of tweets from Jeff commenting on Adam Schefter. He says, for at least the next month, Tua will have the opportunity to seek continued medical advice while also healing from his latest concussion without the weekly wonders about his status. It's true. It just kind of puts it on the shelf. Somebody had asked him about bringing back Tannehill, perhaps. He says, not at this point. Tannehill prefers to stay patient for an opportunity that would give him a chance to play out the season, not just a few games. And quite frankly, I don't get the sense that Miami was ready to go down that road at that point either. This was, a training camp storyline as it was with the backup quarterbacks. And yeah, we could definitely sit here and be doing the thing of, should the Dolphins have been better prepared for the case of Tua going down and leaving it up in the hands of Skylar Thompson. Here's the thing, though. We talk all the time about trusting the organization and letting young guys get their opportunities and all the development. Like, they drafted Skylar Thompson. Skylar Thompson has been in this offense. He is a Mike McDaniel guy. He's been here since he was drafted. He's been in big spots. I do get the sense that a lot of his teammates do trust him when he's not thrust into a crazy situation like he has been in some times. Don't forget, Skylar Thompson at one point had to go in there because like a spotter, poked at Teddy Bridgewater, was like, that looks suspicious. And they took him out of the game and threw him in there. So Skylar's had some weird places too. His receivers do have to pick him up. Like, you cannot have a Buffalo situation from the playoffs where like Jalen Waddle is dropping catchable balls. Like, this is the time where with Tua out, Tyreek Hill, you're an MVP candidate with any quarterback. This is the time you got to go show it. Jalen Waddle, you're a number 2, but really you're a number 1. This is the time you got to go show it. Mike McDaniel, you're an offensive guru, and you're going to out scheme and outsmart the best coaches. This is the time you got to show what you got to kind of make things easier on your less talented quarterback. So I do think for the Dolphins, these are adverse times, but they're winnable games. This is going to be one of their tougher tests. So I won't get crazy if they can't pull this one off, but I don't think it's outrageous to think the Dolphins could go 500. I don't think it's an outrageous thing to think, and to feel some way that they could get out of this thing 3-3. If they finish 2-4, is that a death sentence? No. Winless is obviously, that's going to be a tough hill to climb out of it. But if they can get out of this thing somehow with a 500 record, you'll take that everything. And then we got to figure out where Tua is from there. Like, has he determined that he's going to continue his football future? The reports are yes. Will there be any updates from Mike McDaniel by his media session on Wednesday? I would say he's going to be very hesitant to give any timelines. That's kind of his thing. And if Tua can come back for that Arizona game, if that is a possibility, that does feel like ample time. If you go by his past, it does feel like the Dolphins are going to just let him not have to really think about anything but healing up and through this next 5 weeks, and that's probably the right thing to do. It's probably the right thing to do. And right now they're in a situation where they got to figure a way to go and get 2 wins over the next 4 games. If they could do that, and their quarterback will be ready to return by the end of October, if that is the possibility, all right, then you're not sunk, and you could figure some stuff out here. But I do think that it is true. There's a lot of opportunities here, from the Achans of the world to the Waddles to the Tyreeks to the Anthony Weavers to Mike McDaniel himself. How can they all rally around to make this a situation where the Miami Dolphins are still afloat by the time Tua gets back? It's gonna be a heck of a test for him.